Hello, and welcome to another episode of Altar to Empire. Today we are going to be really focusing on the intuition and the divine support in your soul-led business. So something I see no matter where my clients are income-wise, this is more of just an embodiment level aspect. So you could be at any level of business and this can apply to you. There is often a lack of understanding and true belief that you are divinely supported. So the way that this manifests is often you will hit like areas, gaps in your business. Things will kind of slow down. You will experience lulls, and this is actually not a bad thing. So many people look at lulls in their business. They look at pauses or those times where you maybe don't have clients. Maybe you're pivoting and you haven't really stepped forward into that newer identity yet. And so the programs that you are selling, the services you're selling, either aren't selling or you feel out of alignment with them. And this is exactly where you're supposed to be. So every time this happens in your business, this is a moment to come back and trust yourself. This is a moment to turn inward, because the reality is the divine and those amazing guides and angels that you have supporting you that you can't see. And you probably know they're there, but right now you're feeling like, oh, where are they when I need them, right? And you're looking for the strategy. You're looking for the next thing to fix the lull instead of just owning where you're at, okay? You need to just settle into exactly where you are. And I'm not saying that we need to always be like, it's not about inaction, right? Because you need to be still putting your stuff out there, trying new things in your marketing, being proactive with still being the leader and working up to that new embodied space, right? So use your marketing, use your videos, your posts, your podcasts, any of your email list, right? Use those to speak to that next level you that you're already halfway there in, but you're like, I don't feel fully in there yet, right? You're still in the wobble. And this happens sometimes for weeks. This could happen for months. So on the strategy side of business, we also need to prepare ourselves for sometimes having lulls, right? You need to set yourself up in the beginning to have that backup, because there's always going to be lulls in business. There's always going to be times where you're going to need to pull back a little bit. And yes, there's other strategies where you can create monthly reoccurring income. So that way even when you have lulls, you're still making money, right? Because you're still providing for your clients and you have that reoccurring revenue. So that is one strategy. The other strategy is if you just need space, you also have that backup, right? You have the backup of, I have, say, 6 months worth of expenses saved. Does this take time to build? Absolutely. But creating this and building up to it is something that's going to be absolutely helpful in the long run. Now, the short game and how you kind of work through this, right? Because if you don't have sales coming in, maybe you don't have these systems in place, maybe you don't have the backup yet, you need to come back into yourself, because you are panicking at this point, and you're outsourcing your power and not realizing and recognizing the divinity within you. Okay. So when you learn to trust yourself, when you learn to trust your voice, that you can hold the responsibility of the higher level choices you're making, right? Say you have, we all have bills, right? We have mortgages, we have car payments, we have credit card bills, we have utilities, we have all the things, right? We have expenses in life that maintain our business and maintain our lifestyle. So you need to be less focused on the expectation around the money. And how you do this is by changing your relationship with the money, okay? So instead of freaking out because there's not enough money, you need to bring back the focus and focus on the fact that there is money present, okay? Yes, do we sometimes need to be creative? Sure, there's nothing wrong with being creative. But if you're just experiencing a short lull or a small pause, but you know that you have big bills coming, this is the time to go inward, and you can collapse time when you go inward. Your entire body and your etheric field is its own little universe. Your soul is a part of it. Your being, your astral body, all of this is connected, and the divine lives within you. So you need to turn inward and trust yourself. This is where you create curiosity within yourself. You ask yourself questions. What am I doing differently? Why do I need it to be different than what it is? Okay? Because when these moments of lull happen, they are asking you to pause, right? Sometimes we all need a pause, okay? And what happens is the more you learn to pause throughout your business, if you say, okay, this isn't quite working, and you start trusting those moments when you're like, ooh, I just need a minute. Instead of just pushing through it, if every single week you start taking that moment when you get those nudges to tune into yourself and ask yourself questions, they don't turn into big lulls, okay? Yes, we can have moments in our business where we go through death and rebirth process, but that doesn't mean you have to give up the income and the stability of that income just for that. It's just more about, and this is hard because everyone's a little bit different. Like your journey in your business, your spiritual experiences are always going to be a little bit different than everyone else's. So this isn't like something you can just blanket out there, but intuitively you can pick up on parts of this episode that can really help you tune into what it is that you are needing right now in this moment, right? Is this a 3-month-long lull? Is this like, oh, this week, because I'm recording this during a Mercury retrograde. Is this just a week where I need to take a little extra time and sit with myself and be curious about what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, what's coming up for me to look at, right? Taking those moments to just be yourself and sit with yourself versus panicking because you don't have the money coming in that you need. And also ask what lessons this is teaching you, what lessons you need to be learning, okay? The subconscious is something that you can tap into actually pretty easily. A lot of people kind of make the subconscious like very shadow, like it's a bad place to go, or it's where all of the like kind of negative aspects of you live. And that's actually not true. There is a lot of wonderful and beautiful levels of consciousness that live in your subconscious in your subconscious mind. And it is a space where you can access more information than you would think, and all you have to do is ask. And literally, if you're asking these questions to yourself and you're like, okay, why am I not seeing any sales this month? Right? There is going to be an answer inside of your head, and you are going to kind of have to acknowledge it. And it's probably going to be the first thing that pops in. And the thing is that with your subconscious, because of the relationship that we have created as a collective with our subconscious, typically these are shadow responses, right? So it's gonna come back with, oh, you're lazy. Well, no, you're not lazy, but you need to ask deeper questions past the laziness. Okay, so like, why do you think I'm lazy? Right? Then in that moment, the answer that comes from that is most likely, say it's, well, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. Okay, so what lesson are you learning by doing less, but still wanting more, right? So what's the lesson there? Well, the lesson is probably that you need to learn how to trust that you're going to be taken care of, even though you're not doing enough, quote unquote, right? So there's a surrender that's happening in your subconscious, and all of this is happening for you. We think that these lulls are, and these, bouts of dip in our income are these, scary things, but it's really there to teach us something. So we need to harness this space and ask what it's teaching us. What has this taught me? Right? What is this teaching me? And the second you can tune into it from that perspective, you're going to collapse the time frame around how long you're going to be without the income, because at that point, you're addressing the real issue. You're not just throwing a strategy at it. You're changing the core fundamental belief that you have underneath of all of that, right? And working through this with the curiosity is going to help you so much change and move through these things faster in your business, okay? So you don't have to have these big, long periods of reflection, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. It can just be like maybe it's a day, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's a week. Maybe it's a month. Sometimes it takes a month for things to fully integrate. It takes a month for us to figure out things sometimes. We all have different paths and different lessons we're learning. But ultimately, the more curiosity you have will collapse the time. Curiosity is the best thing that you can have in your business around why things aren't moving. And then, of course, the strategy around this, right? The strategy comes from when you learn the lesson, right? When you see it, when you understand what it is that's missing from your space, what needs to be looked at, what needs to be given light and support and comfort and love to, what mindset shifts you need to create, and what levels of the body work do you need to be doing. That's where you're going to open yourself up to the new strategy. That's where you can then implement the strategy. And a strategy for this would be, once you have implemented all of this, once you've kind of figured it out and learned the lesson, is to start if you need to rebuild programs, do it. But honestly, most of the time, it's very rare you actually need to fully burn something down. It's more of you need to upgrade what you already have, okay? And this is not necessarily that you need to upgrade the physical program, because that's actually easy to do, or the service. You need to upgrade how you speak about it. So this is going to be in your content and your messaging and how you position yourself as a leader. That is what needs to shift as far as selling these things, okay? Because you are still, acting and talking and making those decisions as the woman you were. But the woman you are now, past that lesson, is a very different story. She is one who is less fearful. She is one who is unapologetic, right? More in her power, more in her intuition, more in her inner knowing. So you, in these moments, need to step up where you are speaking, how you are speaking, and how you are positioning yourself. You need to position yourself as a leader. And this is not about you don't need to go out there and start putting other people down to position yourself. This is about positioning yourself by being more authentically you, by standing and saying this is what I believe, right? Creating the kind of broadening and expanding your content, expanding the way that you speak about your work, right? It needs to be more powerful. And a lot of people, I think, misunderstand what power truly is, because power is not something you wield over someone else. It is actually something that you harness. It's kind of like a flame, okay? So you can use the flame to burn down someone's house, or you can light the flame inside of you and become a beacon of light for others to see themselves, okay? And that is what true power is you becoming that beacon of light, because you have lit the fire in yourself. You have become more passionate, more direct, and still somehow yet way more loving, right? Because everything you say, even if it's the truth, is said with love, is said with compassion, and is said with integrity, because of that is the person you are, right? That is the woman you have become, is your stepped into another level of your integrity, your drive, your passion, and your knowing. And that is where you move from. That is where you speak from. And how you speak from your diaphragm. You speak from the depth of you. And this is a little hard to describe, but it is about owning and being confident in who you are, right? You know you, and you need to build the internal dialogue to support this, right? So when you have those moments of oh, I don't know, this feels wobbly, you need to have a phrase, a movement, a key word that brings you back into the energy of that woman that you remembered when you're when you have those moments of pure clarity, and you're I know who I am, and I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is what I have, and this is what I have to offer, and this is how it can help people, and this is what we're going to do, and blah, 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 right? You need to have something to anchor you back in that energy, to shift you back into the state. And you know what? It's okay if your stuff's a little wobbly at first. The more you speak, the more you create content, the more you market to that, the more you are going to really affect change in your world. That's where you're going to start seeing the sales come through, because it's you. You are selling differently. You are not trying to convince people. You know in your own heart who you are, what you're doing, and that you're not here to convince anyone. You're just simply offering them a solution to their problem. And if they want it, fantastic, you come join us, right? And if they don't, then that is okay. But it also comes from you anchoring in that your unique voice in this, right? So, and owning what you really want to just say. What do you really want to say to these people? What do you really want to share? That is what's going to move your business. When you are speaking from your truth, you are speaking from your knowing and your own inner power. You are lighting that beacon and you are lighting that torch so bright, because you know that it is where, it's where people are going to find transformation, where they're going to find solution, where they're going to find support, where they're going to find what they need. So, yes, there is a strategy to all of this, but that strategy comes as a result of you implementing and holding yourself very, very intentionally. Holding yourself with love and kindness, but also pushing through some of those things when you need to. And I'm saying pushing through the fear. That's it. You don't push through just to push. We're just saying like, oh, there's fear there. Okay, what are you going to choose? You're just simply choosing the movement of your soul's mission over that fear. So when you go to make that new content, when you go to speak about your offers, when you go to speak about what it is that you are creating and you are selling, that needs to be rooted in your unique voice. And how you find that is by simply using your voice. Like, this stuff is actually pretty simple. The hardest part is really finding those deep core beliefs and then moving through them. The selling, the content, that's all just action. The only hard part about that is moving through the fear of it, right? That's what people say when they're like, oh, you're in your own way. It's just because the fear is stopping you. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's just you're letting fear override what you know you need to do, right? And the strategy and the selling and the funnels you can create will become so much more seamless when you decide to move through the fear instead of letting it stop you. When you decide to choose the new belief and anchor that in, the new identity and anchor that in over what's comfortable, what you have been doing. So, sit with this and take some time, but use the action, use the strategy to help you create and bring to life this new person. And when you are feeling like there's a lull, you need to find a way to get curious with yourself, tap back in, because that is where you are going to find all of that magic within you and how much amazing information is stored just within you.